Everyone can be a teacher, but to be an effective teacher is another perspective that only a few are qualified and possess the qualities. The question now is how to become an effective teacher. Anchored to the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers or the PPST, a rating tool for teachers was developed and signed into law by the Department of Education through DepEd Order No. 42, Series of 2017. Almost 4 years ago, yes, 4 years ago, school year 2018 to 2019, was the first implementation of this rating tool, which brought confusion to the teachers. Many found it difficult and challenging since there are lots of hurdles in accomplishing and meeting the necessary output in every objective considering the daily routine or task of teachers. But by now we are keeping pace with the change in how we are rated in our performance as teachers. Hopefully, after our reorientation today, we will be better prepared to collect the MOVs that we can use for this year's results-based performance management system in the time of COVID-19, school year 2021 to 2022. Before we begin, let us refresh ourselves with the common acronyms that we encounter as we accomplish the RPMS. Are you ready? Let's start. First, what does RPMS stand for? Good. It's Results-Based Performance Management System. Next, PPST. Great. Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers. How about COT? Awesome. Classroom Observation Tool. This time, let's give the meaning of MOV. Correct. Means of verification. Moving on, what's the meaning of IPCRF? Very good. Individual Performance Commitment and Review Form. How about DP? Amazing. Development Plan. Next, SAT. Incredible. Self-Assessment Tool. Last, give the meaning of PMCF. Outstanding. Performance monitoring and coaching form. Good job. Reform initiatives on teacher quality. The Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers or the PPST has been developed and nationally validated. This was signed into policy by Department of Education DepEd Secretary Maria Leonor Briones through DepEd Order No. 42, Series of 2017. The PPST articulates what constitutes teacher quality through well-defined domains, strands, and indicators that provide measures of professional learning, competent practice, and effective engagement across teachers' career stages. School year 2021 to 2022, the department aims to complete the full cycle of embedding the 37 PPSC indicators into teachers' performance. With the implementation of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan or the BELCP, the sudden shift from face-to-face to remote learning, and now the gradual implementation of the limited face-to-face classes, the tools, forms, and protocols stipulated herein are developed and modified to ensure that the measures of performance this school year are appropriate, adaptive, and relevant to capture teachers' actual performance in the context of the pandemic. PPSC RPMS has 5 Key Result Areas or KRA, 37 PPSC indicators, and 18 objectives. This rating tool shall cover all teachers and master teachers in all public elementary and secondary schools and community learning centers, or the CLCs. We call proficient teachers for teachers 1 to 3 and highly proficient teachers for master teachers 1 to 4. With the continued delivery of basic education services through various distance learning delivery modalities, the changes in the expectations of teachers necessitates a COVID-19 responsive RPMS while upholding quality teaching using the professional standards. The modifications in RPMS, its tools, processes, and protocols for school year 2021 to 2022 captures the DepEd current system that governs teachers' functions, consistent with the DepEd school calendar and activities for the school year to include all the preparatory and end of school year activities stipulated in DO 29 series of 2021. The performance cycle for all teaching personnel for school year 2021 to 2022 shall cover the performance from August 1, 2021 to July 31, 2022. The performance period prescribed shall be used as basis for the determination of length of service for purposes of computation of the performance-based bonus, or the PBB, for teachers and other school-based personnel pursuant to applicable guidelines. There are 4 PPST-aligned RPMS tools that shall be used for school year 2021 to 2022. These are RPMS tool for proficient teachers for school year 2021 to 2022. Second, RPMS tool for highly proficient teachers. Third, RPMS tool for proficient teacher broadcasters. And fourth, RPMS tool for highly proficient teacher broadcasters for the school year 2021 to 2022. To help teachers in understanding the performance objectives and indicators to be used, and in determining the acceptable means of verification, or MOV, for each indicator, a supplemental guide on the RPMS PPST performance objectives, indicators, and MOV is provided in attached. There are further guidelines for teacher broadcasters stipulated in the same memorandum. The succeeding slides will present the timeline of activities for each phase of the RPMS cycle. Let's start with Phase 1, or the performance planning and commitment. The tasks or activities for the Phase 1 are the following: the start of RPMS cycle and start of portfolio collection, person responsible ratees, schedule August 1, 2021. Next task, self-assessment with initial development planning, ratees. Then the schedule is September 2021. Capacity building activities or presentation of RPMS tools in the time of COVID-19, persons responsible or regional office, schools division office, school head, and raters. September to December 2021. And for the national orientation, central office, January 2022 is the schedule. Phase 2 is the performance monitoring and coaching. The tasks and activities, monitoring and coaching, persons responsible, school head, and raters. Schedule August 2021 to June 2022. Another task, media review with development planning, school head, raters, and ratees. Schedule is February 2022. For the mid-year review, all presented means of verification, or MOVs, shall be obtained from September 2021 to February 2022 for RPMS objectives 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10, and from February 2022 to July 2022 for objectives 2, 7, 8, 11 to 19. For phase 3, or the performance review and evaluation, we have the year-end review. Persons responsible, raters, ratees, and approving authorities schedule a week after scheduled graduation. For the year-end review, all presented means of verifications, or MOVs, shall be obtained from September 2021 to July 2022 for all objectives. Phase 4 is about performance rewarding and development planning. The tasks and activities: Ways Forward Development Planning, RATES, August 1, 2021. Another task, IPCRF data collection, persons responsible, school head and waiters, then the schedule a month after scheduled graduation. Are the RPMS tools to be used in this school year? You have the green one. The green tool is for proficient teachers or for teachers 1 to 3. And the blue form is for master teachers 1 to 4 or the highly proficient teachers. For proficient teachers or teachers 1 to 3, there are 9 classroom observable objectives. The performance indicators of these objectives are identified for quality. Objectives 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 require means of verification from a classroom observation, while objectives 7, 8, 9, and 10 have set A and set B options that require MOV from either a classroom observation, provision of supplemental materials, or accomplishment of a teacher reflection form, depending on the context of the teacher. For highly proficient teachers or master teachers 1 to 4, there are 7 classroom observable objectives. The performance indicators of these objectives are identified for quality. Objectives 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 require MOV from a classroom observation, while objectives 9 and 10 have set A and set B options that require MOV from either a classroom observation or accomplishment of a teacher reflection form, depending on the context of the teacher. Remember, only 2 observations are required for both proficient and highly proficient teachers for the entire school year. There are 13 non-classroom objectives for both proficient and highly proficient teachers. This includes the objectives that have set A and set B options. The performance indicators of these objectives are identified for quality. The plus factor is objective 19. Let's talk about the MOV per indicator for the proficient teachers for RPMS school year 2021 to 2022. Objective 1 is under KRA 1 or KRA 1, which is the content, knowledge, and pedagogy. For Objective 1, applied knowledge of content within and across curriculum teaching areas, we have the following MOVs: Classroom Observation Tool Rating Sheet, or the COT Rating Sheet, or Inter-Observer Agreement Form from any of the following. Option 1, an observation of synchronous teaching, limited face-to-face teaching, online teaching, or two-way radio instruction. If this option is not possible, an observation of a recorded video lesson or audio lesson that is SLM-based or MELC-aligned. If options 1 and 2 are not possible, an observation of a demonstration teaching via LAC. For modular approach, demonstration teaching via LAC must reflect the teaching learning processes in the said modality. Okay, So let's now have, how are we going to compute for the quality? Okay, in the RPMS tool or the IPCRF, you can see the performance indicators from 5 or the outstanding up to 1, which is poor. Let's say you have COT rating sheet, you have COT rating 6, and for the COT rating sheet 2, you got 5. Looking at the performance indicator, we can see that when you have the rating of 6, your RPMS 5-point scale rating will fall under 4. And then for 5 rating, or the rating of 5, that is satisfactory, or 3 in the performance indicator of the IPCRF. Then you will get the average of the RPMS 5-point scale rating. 4 plus 3 equals 7, divided by 2 is 3.500. Therefore, looking at the RPMS rating transmutation table, you can see that 3.500 will fall under very satisfactory, or 4. Next, objective under CRA 1 is use research-based knowledge and principles of teaching and learning to enhance professional practice. Its MOV is one lesson plan with annotations identifying the research-based knowledge and/or principles of teaching and learning used as basis for planning or designing the lesson. Okay, so here are the terms to remember in objective number 2. When we say research-based knowledge, it refers to the information, knowledge, or data acquired through systematic investigation and logical study according to PPSC 2017. Principles of teaching and learning refer to teachers' views, understandings, and conceptualization of teaching and learning, or and then the components of instruction in the performance indicator refers to the learning objectives, instructional activities, and assessments. Moving on, let's have objective number 3, or displayed proficient use of mother tongue, Filipino and English to facilitate teaching and learning under CRA 1. Again, same with objective number 1. Its MOV is the COT rating sheet or inter-observer agreement form from the different options presented. Again, for modular approach, demonstration teaching via LAC must reflect the teaching and learning process in the said modality. You need to attach 2 COTs for this objective, and the computation is the same as that of objective number 1. For objective number 4, use effective verbal and nonverbal classroom communication strategies to support learner understanding, participation, engagement, and achievement. We follow again the MOV, okay, mentioned earlier for objectives 1 and 3 with the following options. And then we follow again the computation for objectives 1 and 3 for this. We have to get the corresponding RPMS 5-point scale rating of each COT rating, and then calculate the average of the RPMS ratings, and then find the transmuted RPMS rating. For objective number 5, establish safe and secure learning environments to enhance learning through the consistent implementation of policies, guidelines, and procedures. Same MOV and the same computation when using the COT rating sheets as MOV. Objective number 6, maintain learning environments that promote fairness, respect, and care to encourage learning under CRA 2 or the learning environment. Okay, so COT rating sheet or inter-observer agreement form, again, is the MOV. using these different options. And then for this objective, 2 MOVs are required for the entire school year. Same with that of the previous objectives. For objective number 7, maintain learning environments that nurture and inspire learners to participate, cooperate, and collaborate and continue with learning. We have two sets of MOVs. The first set, or set A, includes any supplementary material in print or digital format made by the ratee and used in the lesson delivery that highlights maintaining learning environments that nurture and inspire learners to participate, cooperate, and collaborate in continued learning. That may include the following: activity sheets, one lesson from a self-learning module or SLM, lesson plan, may it be DLP, DLL, WHLP, WLP, WLL, lesson exemplars or the idea exemplars, and the likes. Video lesson, audio lesson, and other learning materials in print or digital format, and then please specify and provide annotations. Remember, it has to be with client or learner feedback on how the material encourage the learners to participate, cooperate, and collaborate. We have to specify and provide annotations of one's contribution to a material if it is a group work. For the set B, we have the COT rating sheet or inter-observer agreement form using the different options again, which is applicable to the modality being used by the school. Terms to remember in objective number 7. When we say elements of collaborative learning, they're referring to the positive interdependence, individual accountability, and shared authority in assessing and facilitating one's learning. For set A, for this objective, 2 MOVs are required for the entire school year. And then in computing the rating for the quality, we have to check again the performance indicators. And then calculate the average rating of the 2 MOVs and find the transmitted RPMS rating. For example, we have MOV1 activity sheet. The RPMS 5-point scale rating is 3. Then another MOV, one lesson from a SLM with 4. And then the average, 3 plus 4 again is 7. Divided by 2 is 3.5. Then let's look at the RPMS rating transmutation table. Then 3.5 goes to very satisfactory or 4. Next objective under CRA 2 or the learning environment is objective number 8. Applied a range of successful strategies that maintain learning environments that motivate learners to work productively by assuming responsibility for their own learning. This objective has two sets of MOVs, just like objective number 7. For the set A, any supplementary material in print or digital format made by the ratee and used in the lesson delivery that highlights a range of strategies that maintain learning environments that motivate learners to work productively by assuming responsibility for their own learning through the following: activity sheets, one lesson from a self-learning module, lesson plan in any format, video lesson, audio lesson, and other learning materials in print or digital format. Then we're going to specify and provide annotations. Okay? Or we can choose set B or the classroom observation tool rating sheet or inter-observer agreement form. Moving on, let's have the next objective under CRA 3 or the diversity of learners, curriculum and planning, and assessment and reporting. Objective 9 is designed, adopted, and implemented teaching strategies that are responsive to learners with disabilities, giftedness, and talents. It has two sets of MOVs. The set A, Classroom Observation Tool Rating Sheet or Inter-Observer Agreement Form from any of the options provided. And then we have set B, or the Teacher Reflection Form on designing, adopting, and or implementing teaching strategies that are responsive to learners with disabilities, giftedness, and talents, and a certification from the school head that the ratees classes have no identified learners with disabilities, giftedness, and or talents. Here are the concepts to remember in objective number 9. Learners with disability, giftedness, and talents is operationally defined as persons who are gifted or talented and those who have physical, mental, social, or sensory impairment. These persons may be gifted, talented, a fast learner, mentally retarded, visually impaired, hearing impaired, with behavior problems, orthopedically handicapped, with special health problems, learning disabled, speech impaired, or multiple handicapped according to DO 117 series of 1987. Disability shall mean a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more psychological, physiological, or anatomical function of an individual or activities of such individual. Students with gifts and talents or have the capability to perform at higher levels compared to others of the same age, experience, and environment in one or more domains. They require modifications to their educational experience or experiences to learn and realize their potential, according to National Association for Gifted Children in 2019. So here is the teacher reflection form for proficient teachers or teacher 1 to 3. Okay, so you have to reflect on your attainment of the RPMS objective by answering the questions or prompts provided. Use any local or official language that you are comfortable with. Use extra sheets if needed and limit your response to 500 words. So the first prompt or the first question is this. You have the context. Clara is often says restless or unfocused in class. She also has troubles following instructions and skips activities when left unsupervised. Action taken. You had a conference with her parents and found out from them that Clara was diagnosed with a learning disability. Question. How will you modify the instructions for Clara to keep her focus on classroom activities? Write your reflections in this form, and then mention in your reflections a specific learning disability that you are familiar with or have research on. Alright, so for the second prompt under the teacher reflection form, we have designed a lesson plan for the gifted and talented learners based on your idea on how they may be addressed in your class. Your strategies for the gifted and talented learners must be highlighted and annotated in this form. Then attach your lesson plan here. For the next objective, we have adapted and used culturally appropriate teaching strategies to address the needs of learners from indigenous groups. It has two sets of MOVs. The set A is the classroom observation or tool rating sheet or inter-observer agreement form. And then set B, teacher reflection form on adopting and using culturally appropriate teaching strategies to address the needs of learners from indigenous groups, and a certification from the school head that the ratees classes have no identified learners from indigenous groups. So learners from indigenous groups is operationally defined as people who have, under claims of ownership since time immemorial, occupied, possessed, and utilized ancestral territories, shared common bonds of language, customs, traditions, and other unique cultural traits, according to RA 8371 or IPRA of 1997. For the teacher reflection form under objective number 10, you have to reflect on your attainment of the RPMS objective by answering the questions or prompts provided. You may use any local or official language that you are comfortable with, then extra sheets if needed, and then limit your response to 500 words. For the first prompt, in objective number 10, below is an assessment activity for a class of 30 learners, 5 of which belong to an indigenous peoples or IP group. Evaluate the appropriateness of the activity to your learners, then write a response in this form. Directions for your assessment: research on the following roles in your community by asking your parents or anyone with knowledge on these roles. Choose from set A and set B, then explain why these are important roles. For the set A, mayor, councilors, and medical officers. For set B, datu or chieftain, community elders, and healers. Alright, for the next prompt, design a lesson plan for your class that integrates aspects of IP culture using national mandates on Indigenous Peoples Education or the IPED as reference, Republic Act number 8371 or the Indigenous Peoples Rights Act of 1997, DepEd Order number 62, Series of 2011, or the Adopting the National Indigenous Peoples or IP Education Policy Framework, and then the DepEd Order number 32, Series of 2015, or the Adopting the Indigenous Peoples Education Curriculum Framework. Then the integration of IP culture in the lesson plan must be highlighted and annotated in this reflection form. And attach your lesson plan here. That's the second prompt for objective number 10 under teacher reflection form. Alright, so this is the teacher reflection form rubric for teachers 1 to 3. For the outstanding, the reflections, annotations, and or outputs exceed the expectations of the TRF prompt. 4. Exceed the expectations of the TRF prompt. Complete and show comprehensive knowledge about the topic questioned by providing accurate details. For the satisfactory, meet the expectations of the TRF prompt. They're complete and show sufficient knowledge about the topic or question. For the unsatisfactory, or 2, partially meet the expectations of the TRF, and then they are either complete or incomplete and show limited knowledge about the topic and questions. For poor, or 1, do not meet the expectations of the TRF, then they are incomplete and totally disconnected from what is asked. Right. Objective number 11 is about adopted and implemented learning programs that ensure relevance and responsiveness to the needs of all learners. Still under CRA number 3. Okay. So for its MOVs, we have the proof of evaluation on the implementation of the adapted contextualized learning program. So in the proof of evaluation, it may be the individual learning monitoring plan enclosed in DM CI 2020-00162 or the suggested strategies in implementing distance learning delivery modalities or DLDM for school year 2020 to 2021 or any other similar contextualized tool used by the school or prescribed by the DepEd Central Office, curriculum and instructions run in succeeding issuances. Okay. You can also prepare the progress report on the implementation of the adapted contextualized learning program or accomplish completion or technical report on the implementation of an adapted contextualized learning program, or action plan, activity proposal, activity matrix that shows an adapted or contextualized learning program. Okay, concepts to remember in objective number 11. When we say learning programs, these are organized and sequenced set of strategies, activities, and tasks that affect learning. According to PPSC 2017, that may include but not limited to literacy programs, numeracy programs, strategic intervention programs or the SEAM, enrichment programs, mediation programs, intervention modules, ALS modular or ALS modular programs, SPED individualized education programs, or IEP, among others. Okay? Okay, so for objective number 12, utilize assessment data to inform the modification of teaching and learning practices and programs under CRA3. We have the following MOVs: a list of identified list or most mastered skills based on the frequency of errors, correct responses with any of the following supporting MOV. Again, a list of identified list or most mastered skills based on the frequency of errors with the following supporting MOV. You may choose the accomplishment report for remedial or enhancement activities. For example, we have the remedial session, summer reading camp, Feel Erie based reading program, intervention material used for remediation, reinforcement, and enhancement, or lesson plan or activity log for remediation enhancement utilizing of assessment data to modify teaching and learning practices or programs. For objective number 13, under Craft 4, maintained learning environments that are responsive to community context, we have 4 MOVs, or you may choose any of the following. Accomplishment report of a program, project, activity that maintains a learning environment, program, project, or activity plan on maintaining a learning environment, minutes of a consultative meeting or community stakeholders meeting about a program, project, or activity that maintains a learning environment with proof of attendance, and communication letter about a program, project, activity that maintains a learning environment. Here are the concepts to remember in objective number 13. First up, we have the learning environment. This is the classroom and other physical learning areas outside the classroom. Next, community context refer to situations and all the circumstances in which learners learn from instruction, according to PPST in 2017. And then community or wider school community refers to both internal and external stakeholders. Education can be conducted better by focusing on community and community building and seeking ways in which community can improve student learning, one of which is by using community to improve pedagogical, curricular, and co-curricular environments, according to Bickford and Wright in 2006. Here are sample activities that foster an engaged community in student learning. First is the pedagogical approaches, active learning activities in class that use cooperative techniques. Curricular approaches or the tutoring programs are offered for at-risk learners and learners with learning needs. Then co-curricular approaches, social and cultural activities, explore and build on the community's heritage and mission. Moving on, let's have objective 14 under graph 4. reviewed regularly personal teaching practice using existing laws and regulations that apply to the teaching profession and the responsibilities specified in the Code of Ethics for professional teachers. The following are its MOVs. First, we have annotated video or audio recording of one's teaching that shows impact of regularly reviewing one's teaching practice or practices. Next, annotated teaching material that shows impact of regularly reviewing one's teaching practice. Third, for the second MOV, which is the annotated teaching material, it can be of lesson plan, activity sheet, assessment materials, or others. Then provide annotations if you choose others. And then personal reflection notes as outputs from participation in review of personal teaching practices in 4 quarters for junior high school. Okay, so for senior high school teachers, so follow a semestral structure. MOV3 will be 2 reflection notes per semester. Again, that's for senior high school teachers. Okay, and the last MOV under objective number 14, proof of attendance with date in LAC, alright, or coaching and mentoring sessions for review of personal teaching and practices. Still in CRAF 4 is Objective 15. Complied with and implemented school policies and procedures consistently to foster harmonious relationships with learners, parents, and other stakeholders. Here are the MOVs of this objective. Proof of participation or involvement in a school community partnership for the implementation of a school policy or procedure. Example, certificate as committee member or narrative report. Okay. Next, minutes of parent-teacher conference stakeholders meeting about an implemented school policy procedure with proof of attendance. And last MOV for this objective is a communication letter about an implemented school policy or procedure sent to parent or guardian. Included also in CRAF 4 is Objective 16, apply the personal philosophy of teaching that is learner-centered. It has 1 MOV, 1 lesson plan with annotations explaining the application of a learner-centered teaching philosophy. For instance, we have the constructivism, existentialism used as basis for planning or designing the lesson. Concept to remember, components of instruction refer to learning objectives, instructional activities, and assessment. Next is the Objective 17, adopted practices that uphold the dignity of teaching as a profession by exhibiting qualities such as caring attitude, respect, and integrity. You have the following MOVs. First, documented feedback from superiors, colleagues, learners, parents, guardian, or other stakeholders directly reflecting the latest good practices that uphold the dignity of teaching as a profession. Second, annotated evidence of practice indirectly linking to the upholding of the dignity of teaching as a profession by exhibiting qualities such as caring attitude, respect, and integrity with the following MOVs. It can be a screenshot of text message, chat, email, or any form of communication with parents, guardian, or learners. Please remember that the name or any identifier shall be removed. And then remarks from mentor, master teacher, school head about one's qualities. Example, entries, performance monitoring coaching form or the PMCF or in media review form. And then it can also be a recognition from the school or the school community about one's qualities. Objective 18, set professional development goals based on the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers. 4 MOVs are included in this objective. First is the updated IPCRF DP from Phase 2, then Mid-Year Review Form or the MRF, then IPCRF DP or the Development Plan, and certification from the ICT coordinator, school head, or focal person in charge of ESAT or self-assessment tool. Is Objective 19, performed various related works, activities that contribute to the teaching learning process under CRA 5, which is the last CRA or the plus factor. With the following MOVs, any proof of the following: community involvement, advisorship of co-curricular activities, book or journal authorship or contributorship, coordinatorship or chairpersonship, coaching and mentoring learners in competitions, serving as reliever of classes in the absence of teachers, mentoring pre-service teachers, participation in demonstration teaching, participation as technical working group member, or others, and then please specify and provide annotations. Okay, so we're done with the MOVs included in the different indicators or objectives of the RPMS. Now let's proceed to the general guidelines for the RPMS alternative classroom observation. So the alternative classroom observations for RPMS are considered only for school year 2021 to 2022 due to the absence of or limited capacity for face-to-face learning. The selection of alternative classroom observation shall depend on the adapted learning delivery modality or the LDM of the school. Okay, so for the first mode of alternative classroom observation, we have observation of real-time teaching. This applies to teachers who will adopt online synchronous learning or two-way radio instruction regardless of the number of classes and learners. Second is observation of a video lesson or an audio lesson. This considers consider this mode of observation when option 1 or the real-time observation is not possible. Okay? So it applies to teachers who will adopt online asynchronous learning or audio lesson in any of their classes and learners. A video lesson or audio lesson shall be used in lesson delivery as part of the supplementary materials or as one of the learning materials for online asynchronous learning or two-way radio instruction. It is not the same as the video lesson for TV-based instruction or audio lesson for radio-based instruction that the central office, regional office, or the division office produces. Then, a video lesson or audio lesson must be SLM-based or MELC aligned. A teacher can use any recording device to record herself or himself while teaching a lesson. Next, a video lesson or audio lesson can be stored in a cloud. Example is a Google Drive or any storage device like flash drive, or uploaded to an online classroom. Example, the Google Classroom or a learning management system. For the observation of a demonstration teaching via Learning Action Cell or LAC, consider this mode if when options 1 and 2 are not possible. This applies to teachers who will adopt pure modular learning, may it be print or digital, radio-based instruction. For example, the DepEd radio, and TV-based instruction, example, the DepEd TV. Okay, so in DepEd's BELCP in the time of COVID-19, a support mechanism shall be established for teachers and school leaders to have access to relevant on-demand technical and administrative advice and guidelines and guidance, which come in many forms, including professional learning communities through the LAC, according to DepEd Order Number 12, Series of 2020. And then in support of this mechanism, the LOC policy states that school LOC primarily functions as a professional learning community for teachers that will help them improve practice and learner achievement. In Depth Order number 35, series of 2016, page 1. Okay, so those are the guidelines for the observation of a demonstration teaching via learning action cell. And then observation during limited face-to-face classes in low-risk areas. This shall only apply to authorized public and private schools that are located in minimal or low-risk areas based on the criteria set by the Department of Health and pass the school safety assessment of DepEd. And then authorized public and private schools that are allowed to conduct limited face-to-face classes shall allow the usual classroom observation protocol subject to strict observance of COVID-19 health and safety precautions and prevailing community quarantine. Okay, so there should be 2 classroom observations for the entire school year. Hence, ratees should submit 2 classroom observation tools or the COT rating sheets inter-observer agreement forms as MOV for objectives that require such. Objectives 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10. For the alternative classroom observations, it should follow this time frame. For the classroom observation 1, it should be between September 2021 and February 2022. And for the classroom observation 2, we have between March 2022 and July 2022. DepEd Order Number 2, Series of 2015, or the Guidelines on the Establishment and Implementation of the Results-Based Performance Management System in the Department of Education, establishes who the ratees are and their corresponding raters and approving authorities. So let's take a look at the matrix of RPMS Ratee Rater Approving Authority. Okay, so when the rater is the head teacher or the master teacher, the rater will be the principal or the school head, and then the approving authority would be superintendent for the small and medium divisions and assistant superintendent for the large and very large divisions. When the rater is a teacher, okay, from teachers 1 to 3, the rater or the observer will be the principal or the school head, and then the approving authority, superintendent for the small and medium divisions, and then assistant superintendent for large and very large divisions. If there is a master teacher or the head teacher or the assistant principal, they would be the rater observer of teachers 1 to 3, and then the approving authority would be the principal or the school head. Okay, so this time let's take a look at the COT RPMS rating sheet for proficient teachers or teachers 1 to 3. Okay, that's it with 9 indicators. NO stands for not observed, which automatically gets a rating of 3. Do not accomplish if the ratee opted to present set A or a supplementary material as means of verification of objectives 7 and 8, or in the RPMS tool for proficient teachers or RPMS tool for teacher broadcasters. Also, do not accomplish if the ratee opted to present set B or the teacher reflection form as means of verification for objectives 9 and or 10 in the RPMS tool for proficient teachers or for teacher broadcasters. Okay, so this is the COT RPMS rating sheet for Master Teacher 1 to 3 or the highly proficient teachers. Okay, that's it. 7. Classroom observable objectives. And then the next form is the observation notes form. That's it. Okay. And the inter-observer agreement form with multiple observers. And then they will get the final rating. Okay, so let's just discuss the rubric level summary for teachers 1 to 3 or the proficient teachers. Okay, using this table. For the level 3 or rating 3, it has a label of organizing. The teacher demonstrates a limited range of loosely associated pedagogical aspects of the indicator. 4. For developing, the teacher demonstrates a range of associated pedagogical aspects of the indicator that sometimes are aligned with the learner's developmental needs. 5. Applying, the teacher demonstrates a range of associated pedagogical aspects of the indicator that usually are aligned with the learner's developmental needs. 6. Consolidating, the teacher uses well-connected pedagogical aspects of the indicator that consistently are aligned with student development and support students to be successful learners. And then 7, which is the highest score in the COT rating sheet, integrating. The teacher uses well-connected pedagogical aspects of the indicator to create an environment that addresses individual and group learning goals. For master teachers 1 to 4, it goes like this: 4 developing, 5 applying, 6 consolidating, 7 integrating, and 8 discriminating. Again, this matrix is for highly proficient teachers or the master teachers 1 to 4. Another RPMS tool is the self-assessment tool for teachers 1 to 3. This tool is designed for you to reflect on the different objectives related to your professional work. It consists of 19 items that you will analyze and rate according to your level of capability and level of priority for development. The items meet teacher quality requirements congruent with the Philippine K-12 reform and reflective of international teacher standards. You should accomplish this tool prior to the beginning of the school year and use to reflect on your performance throughout the RPMS cycle. The result of your self-assessment will guide you on which RPMS objectives to improve and on what areas you need coaching and mentoring. Okay, so other school personnel, including the school head, are not allowed to see the results of this tool. However, you can discuss with them your IPCRF development plan or the IPCRF DP based on your self-assessment. This tool has 3 parts: demographic profile, objectives is the part 2, and part 3, core behavioral competencies. This is the self-assessment tool for master teacher 1 to 4. Same parts, but with different indicators. Alright, okay, next. That's the end of our presentation today about the RPMS of the school year 2021 to 2022. Thank you for listening. I hope you've learned something from it, and let us all be optimistic as we prepare our MOVs for the current school year. Thank you.